Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Investing Explained. Here's today's question. So let's talk about how apartment buildings are actually accessible by new investors with no prior experience and no cash of their own. Because I think a lot of people, when they get started, they start with single family or small multifamily for various reasons, some of which include intimidation, lack of knowledge, experience, and cash. So how can they buy apartment buildings without any of those things?
Yeah, it's a great question, because when I talk about these things about cash flow and retirement, they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome, Michael. Great. But here's the thing. I don't have the experience for that, and I don't have the cash for it. So I'm just going to invest in single family houses for the next 5 or 10 years and get the experience from that and the money I make, and I will then roll it into apartments, which is not a bad plan. It's better than 99.9% of the other parts of the population. But the thing is unnecessary. In fact, it's a distraction. I thought it was a stepping stone, and I found that it was exactly the opposite of that. It didn't get me any closer at all. In fact, it brought me away from that which I really wanted, which was financial freedom, which I never got for single family houses. But the objections are real, at least in people's mind. I don't have the experience, I don't have the money, and they're kind of stuck. They throw up their hands. The truth of the matter is you can overcome both of them incredibly quickly and easily. So let's talk about overcoming lack of experience. Typically, for most things in life, you need some kind of experience to get something. If you want a job, you better have experience, something leading up to that job. Otherwise, why the heck would I hire you? In multifamily, it's not the case. And the reason it's not the case is that the one major difference in multifamily versus single family, a lot of other things in life, it's a team sport. It's a team effort. And there's always this idea of a team. There's really no I. People who go it alone are eventually successful, but it takes a long time and the deals are much smaller. Versus people who get it and they have assembled a team. The benefits of that are multifold. Number one, if you don't have a track record, but you attract an advisor, you attract an SEC attorney, you attract a property manager. Now you have these people around you who believe in you and they love your enthusiasm and your ambition or whatever the case may be. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But now when you talk to people without your own track record, you talk to them in terms of your team and the collective track record of your team. And if you do that, if you talk about your property manager who manages 3,000 units in whatever, Atlanta, and you talk to a broker, they probably already know that property manager. Oh, Frank, he's a great guy. We've done a bunch of deals together. And all of a sudden we're talking about Frank, not about you. And so there's this idea of leveraging other people's experience. And so it's just a matter of attracting those people. And how long does that take? 30 days, 60 days? It doesn't take 10 years to do that, right? It takes some amount of time. And so that's how you overcome the experience. Now, yes, education is important. You have to use the right language, like anything. Start golfing and you don't use some kind of language, or you step over the line, you break some unwritten etiquette rule, you're frowned upon, right? It's the same thing with anything you do, multifamily as well. So you have to use the right words. So you have to educate yourself, but that's something you can do by attending a seminar or doing a course. So educate yourself so you're using the right language. But again, how long does that take? That doesn't take years either. So that's the experience part. We can talk about the money thing as well.
So how do you find those people to join your team? How do you actually get around those types of people and get them to accept to join your team and help you?
Well, you can be very intentional about these things. You can do a lot of things over the phone. I love word of mouth myself, right? So let's say you're talking to a broker, you can always ask them for referrals. If you're talking to an attorney, you can ask for referrals. So you're always getting referrals to other team members. And the more referrals you get to the same person, the higher that quality of that person is. And so you can do a lot of work remotely on the phone. And then when you've actually established a short list of people you want to work with, at that point, you might want to try to meet them in person and build that rapport up, really. But that's how you do it. You can also meet them at events. Even though, having said that, there's specific team members you want on your team, and you don't want to just go to an event and blind the network. It's a very targeted thing. You want a proper manager, number one, and you want a lender, number two. You need both of those. Number one, for credibility, but also for underwriting deals, because your property manager is going to help you analyze a deal especially when you're doing it remotely. Well, how do you know the rents are $100 under market? Well, you ask your property manager, because he knows this kind of stuff, because they live there and they manage property there. So, if I ask you, well, Robert, you're projecting rents are 100 under market. Well, how do you know? Oh, I did a rental meter analysis. Like, yeah, okay, I don't think it's going to work. Have you talked to a qualified property manager? And what do they tell you? I haven't done that yet. Well, okay, then, you don't have a deal right now, as far as I'm concerned. And so you need a property manager on your team. And that's a very targeted outbound thing. So you're not going to events or meetups to see who you might meet. You're looking for specific people on your team.
And who do you contact to get those referrals? If you're brand new to real estate, you don't have any contacts, how do you find that right property manager? Do you just call some that are, maybe show up on Google? We have technology now, so you can find all of these different people. You can read reviews. Do you call some of the highest rated ones, interview them, if you will, get some info from them, and then go that way?
you got to be creative, right? I mean, how do you find anybody? Used to be the white pages or yellow pages. Well, now you have the internet. You have apartment associations that list professionals that are members, and they typically always list property managers. Like I said, my preference is always word of mouth. And you can get this in a variety of different ways. I mean, if you're, for example, like I said, you talk to a broker, get a referral from that. They know a lot of people in town. Also, if let's say you're driving in an area and there's an apartment you really like, well, you go in and inquire who's managing that. A lot of times there's a sign up front. Or if you Google an apartment building, there's a number on there or a website, and you can see who the property management company is. So you can find property management companies in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I like to rely on my real estate agent because I invest a lot long distance in Texas. I'm here in the greater Boston area. And I rely on my real estate agent. He's also an investor, so he knows not just for property managers, but for everybody that I need on my team. He's able to give me those contacts when I was first getting started in that area. He's been able to give me that information and provide those referrals. That's all for this episode of Real Estate Investing Explained. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get even more free content.